My mom was an artist when I was growing up, and she taught at a small college in New Hampshire. She encouraged me to go to art school. So I started out doing photography and sculpture, and then slowly drifted toward painting. It took me a long time to figure out how to draw, and then figure out how to get a language that I could use and work quickly. It was almost like learning how to play a guitar. I have to practice over and over again, and drawing became I have to practice this and I want to get good at this. So there's this sort of physical sports mentality almost of getting better at it, which is why the small work, a lot of it all looks really different. I'm not that interested in a stylistic continuity. I'm more interested in game of challenges, where it's I would want to see what if I did this, could I figure out how to do this, or could I figure out how to make this? And then now I'm really into when I mess something up and it's this sort of horrible forgotten piece of paper, and then it's oh, now the challenge is, can I actually turn this into something that's interesting? It started out in sci-fi and fantasy. When I saw Star Wars for the first time, when I was probably 9 or 10, it started to open up a world of imagination. I would start to build sets and started to draw as a kid. At a certain point, when I was probably an undergraduate, 15 years ago, that sort of all of a sudden I realized that could translate into art. Sort of opened up the world that art could be anything I wanted it to be. And then I started drawing, sort of fantastical post-apocalyptic worlds in charcoal in undergrad, and that kind of just sort of grew into the work I'm making now. For a while, I was struggling with actually making proper paintings in oil and acrylic on canvas. And then at a certain point, I felt the work needed something else. So I started making a sculpture. And for a while, the sculpture replaced painting. So it was mostly a practice of drawings, very much simple line work. And then these sort of more complex sculptures that kind of echoed the world of the drawings. I call it medieval futurism. It could be on Earth, it could be on another planet, it could be in the future, it could be in the past, populating the work with fantastical characters and fantastical scenarios. So I started to build up these series of cyclical images that are either meant to be read as a book, or in a line from left to right, or in these grids of sort of loose associations. I think when I was probably in my early to mid 20s making work, I was sort of illustrating the world that I lived in, and now I'm probably kind of channeling some of the same weird angsty ideas I had when I was 12 or 13. The show's entitled Abacus, which is sort of the tentative working title for that series of small drawings that I started 6 years ago. One of the roots of the word abacus, they think that it means a platform covered in sand that you can draw and notate stuff in, and you can kind of make any number of calculations and computations on it, and it's sort of a world of possibilities within either the table platform of sand or this device that you can add and subtract and multiply and divide. And I sort of see drawing when I started this project the same way. I have this sort of pile of supplies, and then I can kind of come up with any solution I want to based off of that. And then so that's sort of how the project began. And at its root, it was really sort of about trying to figure out how to make drawings that I was interested in, and just sort of adding stuff and subtracting stuff and working it until it arrives at some spot that I find interesting. Because of that accumulation of time and trying to figure out how to make drawings, loose narratives of recurring characters and motifs and themes started to emerge, and it became a much more sort of narrative project. The work isn't particularly serious. There's humor and stupidity. You're not gonna find sad, angry people mucking around in a swamp, murdering each other without an elf farting in the corner of the drawing. It's not a cynical outlook on the dark side of life or whatever. It's more of a sort of a happy, adventurous hop, skip, and a jump into some kind of messed up scenarios. So a lot of expectation comes from myself and wanting to build this world, that I have in my head. I want to share it, and hang it up and have conversations about it and have people hate it or have people like it, because that also makes the work better. I don't want to just sort of sit alone, in a room and make my stuff and never have anybody see it. In order to have a space like this and make giant work, it's definitely ego driven, whether it be showing off or seeing what you can do, that's definitely a part of it. If I was making money off of it, I would definitely say, oh yeah, part of the drive is financial. Because yeah, I would love to build a career. I mean, if I could just build a career, have a commercial gallery, show, and that's my life, then that's obviously the goal. My name is Tony Bragg. I'm from Vermont, and I am a painter who lives and works in Philadelphia.